Kirkland Lake Discoveries, KLDC on the TSX venture, CEO Stefan Sklepowicz.
You got it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Great. I'm looking forward to the Kirkland Lake story. I mean, look, the Abitibi is the Canadian gold camp. It's where the monster gold deposits are. And I know there's still a lot of gold to be found. There's a lot of gold that's been found that's still sitting there not being mined. So tell us about your company.
Well, we basically accumulated a massive land package in the Kirkland Lake district kind of over the last 15 years, piece by piece, bringing in, these small land claims, bigger land claims. And one of our largest transactions was in 2023 when Newfound Gold vended in a large chunk of property on our eastern border. They became a majority shareholder. The stock at that time got rolled back and then kind of rebranded as Kirkland Lake Discoveries, which we are today. I came into the story at that time in corporate development and then was asked to take over as CEO shortly after that. So it's been a interesting ride, but we're currently kind of a two-prong approach. One of the last transactions we did was with OreCap that brought in 442,000 ounces. And so we have kind of a resource development / exploration down there. And then we have greenfields exploration on our west side of our property. So that's in a nutshell.
So before we get into the project and the drill program, tell us about your background and also sort of some of the other key players on the management team at Kirkland Lake.
For sure. So my background, so I worked with Gold Spot Discoveries, worked with them initially as from the marketing side of things. And so I got kind of a PhD in machine learning and geology through these experts that basically gave me short courses on the daily explaining all these different things that didn't make sense because I had to communicate that to the average person. And so the only way to do that is to be able to get a deep understanding of what they're actually talking about. So that's where I started, moved into Earth Labs when they sold Gold Spot Discoveries as an analyst. So started analyzing all the different projects, working under Matt Wilson, and then started working operations in some private cos, Golden Planet being one of them. So I got a lot of experience working in BC, Northwest Territories, Newfoundland, and then came in for corporate development here at KLDC. So it's been a little bit of a wild trip. And then board members, we have Christina McCarthy, Denis Laviolette, Gary Nassif, and Vincent Dubé-Bourgeois. So they've all had exits in the industry. They've all built up companies from kind of startup to sales. And so they offer a lot of useful connections and knowledge when it comes to doing those things.
Okay, very good. All right, so very, very strong, experienced management team. There's no doubt about that. And you're in the right, neck of the woods for gold and gold exploration and gold mining. So let's talk about the project. Are we talking about one big project or are there like three projects?
There's technically, I would argue, there's three projects, even though the two of them are connected. The way that we can share credits of exploration spend in Ontario means we want to try to keep those properties connected as much as we can. So we have KL West, KL East, and KL South for simplicity. Those are kind of like the three big areas that we're working. They all have different types of prospectivity. The west side is what kind of has really sparked our recent run up and the exploration green set or the blue sky of that greenfields exploration, because it's taking a theory that's been proven on the Quebec side of the border and bringing it into action on KL West. So basically, in the Blake River group of rocks on the Quebec side, there's been LaRonde, there's been Cumont, all of these VMS near intrusions. And so we got hints of that last year with our drilling, where it was showing 35 meters, 1.2% copper equivalent, and basically turning some eyeballs, being like, okay, well, you guys figure out where this is coming from and how that got there, then you could be onto something really big. And then, like I said, in December, we did that deal to bring in KL South and the Mirado mine, which basically gives us a little bit of support on the bottom side of things, because greenfields exploration is always tough. And so before we got any results or anything, we had basically had a conversation with Stephen Stewart, who had said that he wanted to have a bigger chunk of our company. And so by vending that in, he got that opportunity. And we have the protection of that downside with the asset that he has. So.
Okay, so the KL West project is the company's focus in 2026?
Correct. Yes. KL South will once the transaction is cleared by the exchange, that will become our secondary focus. So we have 2 rigs currently at KL West in the middle of a 25,000 meter drill program, and there's some significant targets at Mirado that have basically been sitting there since 2018. So there's a big IP anomaly underneath the deposits, as well as a long strike that haven't been tested. And so we want to get down there and test those as soon as we can as well, so that we know what we're dealing with and then allocate resources effectively from there.
Okay. So you got 2 rigs turning as we speak. Tell me where they're at right now and how many holes have been drilled so far in this phase of drilling.
So they're basically on KL West. I'll backtrack just a little bit, but we did soil sampling around the pluton that's on that side. It's a 17-kilometer round pluton, and it showed us there was mineralization basically at the border. So it was clustering all around. And with that, we had geophysics that was pointing to the same thing. And so once we put a drill hole to the south that showed that there was mineralization in the core, we basically said, okay, let's test around this thing to see how many more of these clusters of mineralization are there and are real. And so that's what we've set out to do. With that, we're about 5,500 meters in at this point in time, about 12 drill holes, 15 drill holes. And yeah, ongoing. So we made 1 discovery already in mineralized syenite, which is exciting in this camp. A lot of the big deposits in Kirkland Lake area are associated with those syenites. And so seeing not necessarily like golden quartz veins in syenite, but specifically the altered syenite got us really excited. Nothing economic at this point in time. It's 10 meters, approximately just under a gram per ton, but it's a really good starting point.
So to be clear, the gold is hosted in intrusion. So this is like, a very hydrothermally active area of Ontario. And there's been a lot of big faulting and fracturing and intrusive events over time. And so basically when you find these, syenite, intrusions that have been altered, that's sort of a, vector to help you find gold.
Exactly. You nailed it. That was actually the perfect summation of what we're doing. So yeah, that's exactly it. And the nice thing about those syenites is that they are softer. So there's the intrusion that's there, it's primarily granite. And so you had a primary phase of granite, and then the secondary, tertiary, quaternary keep going phases after that. One of them was a syenite. And then now that we know that it's a mineralized syenite on top of it, now you have a later stage intrusion plus the hydrothermal fluids. It's a great combination. So it's just a matter of how big is it? Where are they? Does it open up below the point where we hit? We hit that in the first, I think it was 20 meters. So basically comes to surface, and there hasn't been any drilling underneath it. So that's where we're following up right now. Drills hit another couple of targets. Because of the time frame for assays, it's taking forever. So when we were looking at the core, it just looked like a brick red cyanide. It didn't look highly mineralized or anything, and there was intervals that were up to 3 grams per ton. And so for us now, it's great. We can go back, use the visuals as a vectoring tool as well, rather than just waiting for assays, and expedite the process a little bit more.
So in terms of the exploration work that you've done at KL West, I assume you've done a lot of soil sampling and maybe even a bit of IP. What is really guiding you in terms of these first 10 or 20 holes? Are you focusing on big anomalies in the soils, or are you testing some of these IP targets?
So we did an HeliMT survey, which is giving us some very interesting. Basically, it provides conductive anomalies and resistive anomalies. And so with this deposit, we're still figuring out exactly, I shouldn't say deposit, with this type of mineralization, we're still determining what's the vectoring tool on it. So yes, we're using the soil anomalies, but then we're also combining it with the resistive and conductive anomalies that we're getting along with that MT survey. So there was a really incredible tool that Expert Geophysics was able to pull out where it takes the peaks and can combine them. And so we're getting a web of basically, fractures and rock types. And so by putting a hole into those, you can basically start going, okay, well, this is what this is looking like. And so at Wolverine Bend, where we hit that syenite, it was into a magnetic low. And one of the other products that came with it was a magnetic inversion. And so tracing that basically to where we're seeing it going a lot deeper, because the bottom of the survey is about 7 kilometers deep, and this magnetic low anomaly is going all the way down there. And so it's following that a little bit and seeing if that continues and if that's relevant or if it's just a red herring type of thing.
When I look at one of the slides on Kirkland Lake West, I see copper in, big copper anomaly at surface, zinc, silver, and obviously gold. That indicates to me this could be VMS. Is that wrong?
Yeah, no. So our thought process on this, and that's a good way to look at it, is that it was a VMS at one point in time, especially with those Blake River group of rocks. It was a volcanic bed at the bottom of the ocean, and so you get those black smokers. But then what we're seeing is that it's been remobilized with the intrusion or with those hydrothermal fluids. So instead of getting a nice consistent lens, we're getting that movement of the VMS material into pathways that were of least resistance. So rather than it just being massive sulfides, we're getting massive into semi-massive into disseminated where it's all mineralized. And so our thought process is if we can follow these pathways of least resistance for those hydrothermal fluids, then we can get to the source and where we're having a little bit more juice in the rocks.
Got it. Okay. So tell us about your objectives for 2026. Where would you like to see the company 1 year from now?
The goal here is to make as many discoveries as we can with this program. The intention is to, we've already had success, but it's got to be bigger than this for it to be worthwhile and meaningful. And so it's following up with those hints of mineralization and finding out, okay, where are they coming from? How big are they? So, the 25,000 meters, we're doing 200 a day on average with these guys. The Shibugamu drillers are just insane. They work on a different level than most of the other drillers we've ever had. So with that, it's multiple holes into these systems, figure out how many of those soil geophysical anomalies are real, and then follow it up to see how big they are. So we have 2 areas now that we're really focused on in Wolverine Bend and Winnie Lake. Both have proven mineralization. Now it's a matter of, is it economic? Can we get them big enough that it matters? And then on the flip side of that, it's putting some holes into KL South to see, this historic resource was done at a time where nobody cared about gold whatsoever. 2013 to 2018, it was a tough time to be working in the industry. And so we think there's a lot more there. All the drilling's been above 250 meters. Classically in the KL camp, things go deep. Macassa's at 2.5 kilometers deep, and there's no holes under 250. So for us, we have a very interesting model that we've been working with that shows that this mineralization just keeps going. It looks like it's a similar style that you have shear hosted with VMS material as well. And so you get basically that upgrading of mineralization because those fluids have gone through in those areas and basically high graded sections. So that's a big one for us too, because it's in this market, barring today being the pullback day, it's still incredible times, and we still think this is going to keep going. So if we can figure out that is a nice deep mineralized system, yeah, it's nice to have 400,000 ounces at surface, but let's see how big this thing can actually get to.
So at KLSAL, you have a compelling target there in terms of, this big IP anomaly that's untested. When does that get drilled?
I want to get to that as soon as possible. Realistically, it's not that I have less faith in KL West, but it's earlier. We don't have a deep IP anomaly target with 50,000 meters of drilling already into it, and so it would be unwise, I think, to not take advantage of that information that we have. And so basically, as soon as this thing closes, the guys have already been down there. The access is fantastic. The only people that are going to be upset about us drilling down there are the snowmobilers, because it's already cleared out and ready to go. So basically, the exchange has the last pieces that they need. I just need them to sign off, and then it could be as early as next week if everything goes according to plan.
So as soon as that's cleared with the exchange and you announce the transaction is closed, how long before we get a drill rig there to test it?
We would finish up the targets that we have to the north. So one of the drill rigs is at the northern side of the Pluton. So basically, as soon as those targets are done, we'd move it down, which could be, like I said, as early as a week. It's that close that they just put it on to a flatbed and they can move it down. And it's already cleared, ready to go. We have padded ground there, so there's no requirement for permits with the area that we're looking to test. And specifically for the gold mineralization, we can switch over to photon assay and get those results much faster than we've been dealing with the multi-element. So it should be a very quick turnaround and fast catalyst here.
It's interesting because that looks like a very compelling target. Why was it not drilled until you guys are going to do it?
Because of the market that it was in. Basically, they were looking at building out a resource that could be taken out at surface. So they thought, if we have 500,000 ounces, then that should be big enough that somebody would be interested to, scoop that up and use it. And so it was basically, what's the fastest way we can start getting some money out of this thing? Stop drilling, stop exploring. Money was hard to come by. It was a very different time comparatively to what we're dealing with now, where exploration actually gets rewarded. And so I think it was just a matter of good timing. And then it fell into kind of that background where it had been in that state for too long that people just stopped caring about it. And so, we picked it up and started looking at it rather than a resource that we were going to extract. We took the lens of, we're going to explore the snot out of this thing, because there's so many compelling targets. It's not just the one that's directly underneath it. Along, a regional perspective, we have parallel shears that have up to 137 grams per ton at surface, untested. Like, these shears typically don't just happen one and that's it, and so we have these parallel shears that look like they're along the same line that we can follow up as well. Those ones will need permits because they're not on the patented ground. So that will take a little bit longer to get to those, and we'll definitely want to ground truth all of that stuff first. So that'll be summertime.
Very good. So tell us about the company's finances right now, and how much runway do you have?
Well, in October, we were successful in raising 12.7 million, which gave us a nice chunk to do some work. Drill costs in the Abitibi are low, all in, including geologists, room and board, all that shit. It's $225 for our summer program. It'll be a little bit higher in the winter because of the road clearing with all the snow. But it goes a long way. So we have, $6 million will be dedicated to our drill program, and then the rest is, for G&A, marketing, et cetera, as needed. But we can pull on that to move towards additional drilling, as we need. But our burn rate is less than 100,000, which gives us, 3+ years of just doing nothing with that capital. But realistically, we want to be active. We want to be fast with this drilling to get the most out of these markets, and try to execute on our plan to give us everything that we can.
Very good. And so tell us about who participated, in the October financing, and who are your largest shareholders?
So it was led by Eric Sprott, Rob McEwen. We had Crescat Capital come in with Quentin Henney. We had a few other names that prefer to remain anonymous, but some other big players in the space. There was a commodity fund out of Singapore. It was non-brokered, so basically I vetted every single person that came into it to make sure that we were getting good long capital that understood the plan, understand what we were trying to do, and is looking to support that. And so those are the primary ones, and that's not the first time that Eric and Rob have been in there. They came in our previous financing that basically allowed us to get to this point to test this target. And anyways, they're very happy shareholders.
Very good. And how about your VPX and some of the other key players on the management team? Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so our exploration team, it's been strong. We have Mike Kilbourne, who's been there in the Abitibi for 40 plus years. He's logged 200,000 meters of core. He's seen all sorts of rocks in the Abitibi, and it was nice because when we drilled Wolverine Bend, he was like, man, this looks exactly like Young-Davidson. Like, he's worked underground, has looked at all that core. He's like, it looks the exact same. And so it's fun getting that feedback immediately from somebody who's been around as long as they have. And then I have a young gun, Drake Hayden, who's more of the technical guy because Mike's still drawing with Mylar and pencil crayons. So it gives us that digital aspect with QGIS and Leapfrog. And then just in November, we brought in Ben Cleland, who's an explorationist through and through. He worked at Vior, has a lot of experience in large drill programs with big exploration and focused on in the Abitibi. So bringing him in was a good piece of the puzzle, especially now that we're ramping up, and it allows the geologist to focus on the rocks at site and he can focus on the exploration. So good, strong team.
So tell us about the artificial intelligence and how it's helping you, with targeting and modeling. I mean, this is obviously something that is happening in the mining industry, especially, with exploration. But tell us how you're using it.
Okay. So, like I said, I started with ALS Gold, or with Goldspot before it was sold to ALS. I still have a really good relationship with a lot of those guys, and I understand the work that they're doing and how it helps. So we're not using it in a way that some companies are, where it's like, okay, well, let's just put the data in and spit out a bunch of random targets. We don't have enough data density across the entire property. There's a lot of areas that have had more work. So anywhere where you have drilling, it basically creates anomalies in those areas because you have the most data there. So it's not very useful for us when we're looking at a large scale. But what they were able to do was take our EM data and our magnetics data and then link it with known mineralization, and then take that and provide a series of targets that have matching line data. Because most of the time when we look at geophysics, it's these pretty blue and pink maps. What they look at when they're looking at it is the lines. And so they see, the magnetic response or the EM response. And basically you can take that and combine it with known mineralization, and then take that signal that came out at that time and match it to all the other line data. So they were able to do 7,000 line kilometers of data to pull out all of these targets and anomalies, and then give us an indication of how they're lying. Are they steep? Are they tabular? Are they flat lying? Which way are they dipping? And so they're able to do that incredibly fast, which as a junior, time is money. So the more information we can get, the faster we can get it, the better we can act on that information. And so a lot of it is around those geophysical products, and to be able to actually make use of them rather than being like, oh, this pink and blue line up, that's nice. It's like, okay, we're actually getting detailed analysis of it to be able to utilize it properly.
Very interesting. I'm curious, what about for core logging? Does it help with that at all?
We haven't had, so we're in the process of setting up the systems to be able to utilize it more effectively, especially now that we have the visual piece of it. And so that, that brick red syenite, the fire truck red, it's now, we know that's specifically linked. And so by getting really high quality core photos, we're going to be able to start using AI to pull out mineralization from it. The guys can see it, but it's a lot faster, right? So we can go through all of our core and take a look and see, did we miss anything? Those types of things. Eventually, it can be the thing where we would be able to turn it into structural data that comes from it as well. Rock quality designation, those things. So that's the future for that type of machine learning for us. But that's about it at this point. We don't have a lot of use cases yet for the core when it comes to AI.
Yeah, it's still early days with
Exactly.
AI. Still very early days, but I have a feeling maybe 12 to 24 months from now, it won't be such early days.
It's crazy, man. The way that we're making leaps and bounds, it's again, like 5 years ago when I was working this stuff, there was a lot of manual labor that went along with it.
Oh man, yeah.
It was AI, but it was all led by human experts, whereas now it's more and more that the machine is taking over. So I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Eventually there'll be models that you can stick everything in and it goes, okay, you need more data here, get that data and then feed it in, and then it just keeps building and building and building off of that.
Yeah, I can't wait till we have robots as core drillers. They don't make mistakes and they don't get tired. But I have a feeling we're still quite a ways away from that. Yeah. Very interesting. I'm curious. You obviously just got back from Vancouver, as did I. What were some of your takeaways from conference week in Vancouver?
So the talking heads all spoke about this is still a classic bull market. You're going to get big pullbacks. If you have conviction in the stocks that you've picked, stick with them. Those are buying opportunities. So I appreciated that. It made me look at my portfolio and go, I need to own more of my own stock, like that this is something I have incredibly high conviction in. And so any pullbacks, once this damn transaction closes, then I can, pull the trigger on. And also looking at, what choices I made along the way here. Can I pull some profits out of the fatter positions that have 4, 5, 6x to find value in some of the other areas. One of the other takeaways was it was insane. It was, I've been to a lot of conferences over the years, and this was the first time that I was like, holy smokes, it's too busy. And so it tells me that we really are just getting started with regards to, this run. More and more people are starting to look at things, look at metals in general. And so I think we're going to have, a fun, hopefully few years here where we actually get some run on what we're working on here.
Very good. Yeah, it was an incredibly busy conference week, and definitely bull market vibes. I mean, you could argue that we were in a bull market last year, but this one is definitely further along, and some more people have gotten the memo finally. Exactly. It's the first, I would say it's the first time that it was clearly a bull market. It wasn't in doubt, right?
Exactly.
All right, Stefan, this is a great introduction to Kirkland Lake, KLDC on the TSX venture. I guess, I'll give you the last word. Maybe if there's a question I failed to ask, or you can just give us a summary of what investors can expect from the company in 2026.
The only other thing that I would add is that before I got into the industry, I'd been an investor for 20 years. And I always hated when junior mining companies, or explorers, I should say, would, they'd be a gold company. And then, 6 months later, you don't hear from them. And, oh, no, just kidding, I'm a lithium company because lithium's up. And no, just kidding, I'm doing silver now. and there was no communication, no transparency whatsoever. And so I took that to heart and said, you know, with my company, that's never going to happen. And so what we do is a video series called KLDC Treasure Hunters. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we put out an episode that you basically follow along with the guys, with myself, so you can see what we're up to, what we're doing. And you have a very clear understanding of what we're working on, where the drills are. You know, if core's coming out of the rig, we show it where we can. If it's material, then we just do a press release so that everybody's aware of it. I'm much more transparent than the average Explorer code, because I enjoy the hunt. I enjoy what we're doing. It's one of the most exciting industries, and we don't share that often enough. And so we want to bring people along for the ride so they can get excited about what we're doing. And it's very rare where I get people asking, you know, where are you spending my money? You know, they know exactly. They just watch the video. We have conversations about, you know, oh, that rock looked really cool. Was Mike looking at this, or did he see this, or da. You know, so it's much more enjoyable conversations from that regard. But yeah, we're this isn't a lifestyle company. This is something where I'm looking to make a discovery, build it up as much as we can. If it's something where we have, you know, a suitable neighbor that wants to take us out to add to their production, then, you know, it's a very clean, easy pathway. The infrastructure in Kirkland Lake is insane. I'm 5 kilometers from Macassa and 2.5 kilometers from Upper Beaver, which are both owned by Agnico. One is being put into production, and one's been producing for an incredibly long period of time. So it's not, you know, it's not the Golden Triangle. I don't need to find 5 million ounces just to, you know, get started. It's a lot easier to work there. It's a lot cheaper. And we can work year round, which makes it a lot of fun. So you're constantly getting news flow out of this company.
I like that. You are a cutting edge junior mining CEO, Stefan. We're used to, in this industry, radio silence from companies for 4 to 5 months at a time. And some of these older guys, the old school guys, feel that they don't need to tell everything to their shareholders, and they'll keep some stuff for themselves. I like the transparency. I like the engagement, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.